Hello, and welcome to the Sittin and Knittin podcast, a podcast about what I'm knitting. My name is Diana, and I will be your host. This is a pilot podcast to see how podcasting suits me and how I suit the podcasting world. Um, so let's get started. First, a little bit about me. Now, for this first pilot episode, I will talk about me at the beginning of the podcast. After that, if there are future podcasts, I will leave all the chatter about me at the end. We'll just get right into the knitting and crafting, and you can see all of that. And then if I start talking about me or my life, or which I don't plan to share a lot of personal things, but just for my chatter and chit chat and things like that, I'll leave that toward the end just in case you're not interested or don't have time or whatever. You can go on and do other things. So, but I'll introduce myself right now. Like I said, my name is Diana. I am his handmaid on Ravelry and on Plurk. I am his handmaid one on Twitter. Um, I am a 30 something year old mother of 7 children. I have 4 children still here at home with me. I have a daughter that is 14, a daughter that is 12, a son that is 8, and another son that is 5. And so those are the ones that are still home. Um, I have a 20 and 19-year-old sons that are not at home anymore. And we had a sweet little girl who passed away January of 2011 at the age of 9. So um, that's my family. I am married. I currently stay home and I knit, plus all the mommy stuff. But why I started this podcast? I started this podcast because there are no knitting groups close to me that really suit me. I live in a very small town in Southwest Ohio, about 40 miles south. I think it's north of Dayton, Ohio, and there is a knitting group, but they have been established for a while. I've only lived here a few years, and these people have been knitting together for a long time. I mean, they're knitters, so they're open and loving, but at the same time, most of them are related, and it just seems like they have a camaraderie that it's kind of hard to break into. Plus, most of them are at least 20 years older than me, so we're in different stages of life, and so we don't have a lot in common besides our knitting, and it just doesn't work out for me. So I was a member of the knitting guild, my local knitting guild. Well, it's in Dayton, which is about 40 miles away, but that's hard to get to once a month with children and school and things like that. So my knitting community is Ravelry and Plurk and podcast and blogs. And I really don't read blogs like I would like to because I can't read and knit like I want to. So when I'm watching podcasts, I usually can knit while I'm watching podcasts. So podcast is where it is. And then if I spend a lot of time on Ravelry, which sometimes I can, then I don't get a lot of knitting done. So that's me. I learned to knit in September of 2004 after my sixth child was born. So I had 6 children at home, all under the age of 12, and I needed some escape, or, I wanted to kind of maintain what little sanity I had left. I had been crocheting for a couple of years. A friend had taught me to crochet, and I was crocheting some afghans and some slippers, but I would always look longingly at knitted fabric and think, oh, I wish I could do that. Oh, I heard knitting was so hard because you have to use 2 hands instead of one, and blah, blah, blah. But something just hit me. My son was born in May, and in September, I went to the library and I picked up Knitting for Dummies and the Idiot's Guide to Knitting and Crocheting, and I sat down with my long aluminum boy needles and red heart yarn, and I taught myself to knit. And so that was that. Yeah, I had a neighbor. There was something, even though I was knitting, there was something that was not just coming out about my knitting, but I would knit, 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 and I can't really remember what it was, but there was something that just wasn't clicking. And one day I was out on my porch and I was knitting, and my neighbor said, "Oh, you're knitting. I haven't knit in a long time." And she was an older lady, not very old, and she was a little eccentric. Anyway, she came over and she said, and I said, "I just can't get it to look right. I'm missing something." And so she showed me, and what she was showing me was I was missing the click. And what I call the click is when I was teaching myself English style knitting, and when you wrap the yarn around, you need to pull the working yarn down between the two needles. And I wasn't doing that, and so it was making my knitting, it was not coming out right. So it took off from there. When I realized that I had to make sure all the time that my working yarn was coming down between the two needles, that was it. And so I've been knitting ever since. I do knit English style knitting. I am a thrower. I had always heard or read, or I can't remember where, but in the wind, I heard that continental knitting was harder, and then you couldn't really purl with continental knitting, or it was hard to purl. And so I just taught myself, I wanted to continental knit because I heard it was faster, but I taught myself English first. Later on, I did teach myself to knit continentally. I hope I'm saying it right. And I did, I can do that, and now I do the Norwegian purl, where that's pretty quick and easy and fun for me to do. But I was knitting English most of the time, and that's what I'm most comfortable with. I've timed myself with both methods, and it's about the same. I knit about the same speed with both of them, and so I just do what's more comfortable with for me. Sometimes I do knit continental because I think it all depends on what yarn and needles I'm working with, and I think I'm doing a whole lot of work with my throwing. If I do, then I'll switch to continental, but I'm an English knitter, and that's me. That's about my family, and that's how I learned to knit. Now we will talk about my podcast segment. Podcast segments. Okay, this is going to be an overview of what you can expect from the podcast. I will not, of course, have every segment every time. It just depends on where I am in my knitting life. And I have not decided whether or not I'm going to podcast every week or bi-weekly. I'm going to try to keep the podcast under 30 minutes. I just think that'll work best for me. And but this is what you can expect. I will have on my needles, which is what I'm knitting or crocheting on my needles or on my hook, because I do still crochet a little, off my needles and hook, which will be my finished objects. Under my needles, I do sew, and I do like to cross stitch and embroider. And so if I'm doing some of that, I would like to share that with you. What I want to cast on. I don't have fancy segment names yet, so, but what I want to cast on, or my heart's desire, is what I have for this segment name. And that will be what's waiting in the wings, maybe what I'm ready to cast on, or something that I've seen that I really would like to get started on. I'll share that with you. Stash enhancement, well, where I will share purchases that I have made, or either yarn or tools or whatever. A podcast review. I will share with you I will do one podcast a week, and it will be my favorite podcast, and it will be why I like this podcast. I know usually with reviews, you kind of give the good, the bad, and the ugly, or you kind of say what you like and don't like, but that's not what my podcast review segment is going to be about. It's just going to be me sharing what my favorite about my favorite podcast and why. Podcast reviewing is kind of different than product or book reviews. I mean, I know there are authors behind the products and different things like that, but podcasts are more personal. And I don't want to say anything negative about anybody. If there's a podcast out there that I do not like for whatever reason, my opinion is that it doesn't suit me, I don't feel like I need to share that with everybody. If I don't have anything nice to say, I won't say it. So, and if I have not mentioned a podcast yet, that does not necessarily mean that I don't like the podcast, but this is only a weekly or bi-weekly podcast, and so I may not get to all of my faves. I do watch and listen to several podcasts on my iPod Touch. And so I will share those as they come along. But I just thought I would talk about and give shout outs to my favorite podcasters. I will have book and product reviews from time to time where if I get a new product or a new book, it might be new to me, but it may not be new to you, where I will review that and talk about that. Another segment I'll have is what I'm watching or reading. I will kind of qualify this with I do not own a TV. We choose as a family not to have a TV. It's not because we can't afford it, it's just because we don't want to. So we kind of would rather monitor the things that come in our home, and we think we can do that better without the television. But we do get DVDs. We rent DVDs, or we check them out from the library. Actually, I really don't know what the rental places are, or we have Netflix. And so I will share with you what I'm watching that way, because if I'm not watching podcasts, I will be watching something on Netflix or a DVD that I have. And what I'm reading, I have a Kindle and I love my Kindle. But when I am really, really, really in knitting mode, I hardly touch my Kindle. I almost add books to my Kindle daily because I get the free Kindle e-reader email that comes every day where they tell you what books are for free. And I look through there and pick the books that suit me and I add them. And I have, I don't know, maybe 400 books on my Kindle, but I haven't read them. So I may share with you what I'm reading or what I have added to my Kindle. I can do that. Some books that may come up free that I thought sounded good and I added it to my Kindle. So I will share that with you. I will have Justice's Corner. Justice is my 14-year-old daughter. She will be 15 in September, and she does knit. She is Lamb's Pride on Ravelry, and you can find a link to her profile on my profile page, on my Ravelry page. And she will be sharing, they don't knit all the time or consistently, but when they do knit, they would like to share with you what they're knitting. And when I say they, because Journey's Corner, Journey is my other daughter. She is 12 and she will be 13 on June 20th. And she also is a knitter. And so Journey likes a lot of things. She likes scrapbooking and she also likes editing videos. She will be my video editor because I am not tech savvy. So anything you see on here, she will do as far as editing and things like that. So I'll have that, and that may not be every week. I will have my favorite things where every week I will, and I borrowed this from Sock Bunny Knit and Fit, so thank you, Kimberly, where I'll share something of my favorite thing, just something that I really like. Yes, something that I really like. And then miscellaneous and off topic, if I feel like it or if I think it's something that's interesting, since we are knitting friends and we're sitting and knitting and chatting, I may share a little bit about my life or whatever's going on. And at that time, that's, if you want to turn it off, you can. I don't expect it to be long or anything, but just kind of to get to know you better and let you kind of get to know me better. If you see me looking down from time to time, I do plan on knitting while I'm podcasting, since I am sitting and knitting with you. So let's get started. On my needles. Well, I have a lot of projects on my needles right now. I feel like a lot of projects. I almost feel like I have too many projects because I don't know, I hardly have time to do them all. And I feel like I'm just dipping a little bit in each one. And when am I going to get a finished object? Am I a process or product knitter? I think I'm a little bit of both. I mean, I knit to keep my sanity. Knitting helps me to stay grounded. But at the same time, I like the finished product. So I kind of like a product. And so having all these things cast on is, I'm like, oh, what am I thinking? So we'll start with what I'm knitting in my hand right now. I thought I'd pick up something simple and stockinette stitch to knit while I am podcasting. So I am knitting. I'm working on, it's a sock. I call it my second time around sock. And this sock is knit for the Sock Bunny Knit and Fit charity sock drive that the socks were supposed to be in, I think in April or May. And I am just now knitting the first one or getting done with the first one. This is knit out of Blue Moon Fiber Art Socks That Rock in the lightweight, and it's called the Incredible Shrinking Violet. I am knitting it on 2.25 millimeters needles. I am knitting it with two circs. And I call them the second time around socks because somehow I missed that the socks were supposed to be washable. So I started the socks earlier in the year, and I was using a washable wool. And so when I happened to go to the forum and happened to see that it was supposed to be, I was using non-washable wool. And when I saw it was supposed to be washable, I had to start over. So anyway, it's just going to have a short cuff. I'm knitting it from the top down. I did my favorite heel, which is the Fleagle heel. And that's about it. She has Danielle, who I'm supposed to be knitting for, has the same foot size as I do. And so it's easy for me to match these up for her. And that is one thing that's on my needles. And I have it in my Knitting's My Bag. I really like it. It has teapots on it. And I love tea, sitting and having tea with my friends. And I love teacups, as you may see back there. I have some on my shelf back there, and I have lots more on different shelves in the house. And so anyway, I like tea. And I like pretty teacups and tea parties. And so thank you, Lois, for this beautiful Knitting's My Bag. Next, what's on my needles is Simeon's Toy. I have been watching a podcast, and I guess I'll talk about the podcast a little bit later, but Joni Knits. And I was one person that never wanted to knit toys. I felt like they were a waste of time. I used to try to justify my knitting by saying I was knitting something useful, something to wear, something to use. Now that I'm older, been knitting for a while, I don't feel like I really need to justify my knitting. I'm knitting because I enjoy it and because I want to. So, but anyway, I still never wanted to knit toys. But after watching Joni Knits and watching her different toys, I thought I have got to knit a toy. So I went and got the Rebecca Danger book from the library, and her big book of knitted monsters. And I decided, and I had my boys, my 5 and 8-year-old boys, look through the book and pick out a toy that they want and tell me the color that they wanted. So my 5-year-old picked out Angus the Attic Monster. And so I am knitting Angus the Attic Monster. This is how far I've gotten on him. Excuse me. I am knitting him out of brown sheep lamb's pride worsted, and I'm using two strands of yarn held together on size 9 needles. Knitting with bulky yarn is not my favorite way to knit, and knitting with bulky yarn at a small gauge I'm finding is really not my favorite way to knit. I find it hard on my hands to knit on this for too long, but I find it very, very fun at the same time to knit on the toy. So, oh, this is the Bulldog Blue. And I love Lamb's Pride. It was the first real yarn that I had that was not Red Heart. But now I don't like it so much because I'm finding I don't like fuzzy yarn. So, and it has a little mohair in it. But I thought it would be fun for Angus. And so I am doing Angus, and let's see. I have his body done, and I'm starting on his head. Another thing, I am having fun. I'm having fun knitting this because it's fun watching Simi, look forward to it, and it is fun knitting it. But at the same time, the fun part did not come in after I stuffed him. I found it very fiddly and hard to try to knit his head. I had to knit his body and then stuff him and then decrease and then increase for his head. And it was really hard. The stitches were tight and everything, and I found it very difficult to knit with the body stuffed. And so I don't know if anybody has any tips on what can make this easier. I don't know if it's because I'm knitting at such a tight gauge or what, but anyway, I thought I was going to bend my needles, 5.5 millimeter needles, but I haven't bent them. But yeah, I found doing this part a little bit tough. Now it's easy, but I'm getting ready to stuff his head here in another few rows, and I think it's going to get hard again. Also, I have some holes right here. I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to cover those up yet. Probably just from the decreasing and everything else. But that's going to be Angus the Attic Monster. I have him and I won't always show my project bags, but I'll show you this project bag of dragonflies. First of all, this is one of my favorite colors. Almost any shade of purple, but really the pastels and lavenders are my favorite colors. I got this bag off of Etsy, and I can't remember who the Etsy seller was, and it's an okay bag. I didn't realize it was just a plain drawstring bag, and I probably could have made it myself. But anyway, it was fun to support a small shop owner, and I like the way she has the drawstrings. They're long, and I like the way she has them doubled. So I don't think I could have probably figured that out. So anyway, that's that bag. Then my next on the needles is, and I am looking on my laptop at my Ravelry page so I can have all the information there. Oh, this is the wrong one. It's a Multnomah shawl, and I have it titled Multnomah for Mom because I started knitting this shawl, the Multnomah, and I haven't made a shawl in a long time. I made a shawl when I first started knitting out of homespun yarn, and several years ago, and I gave it to my mom, and I'm afraid to ask her where it is because I don't know. I think she said she has it packed away. But anyway, and I think that was the only shawl that I made. So I am making this one out of wool mice or wool miza. It's pure 100% merino superwash, and it's a 575 yard skein, and I think I got it from somebody's stash on Ravelry because I heard so many good things about wool miza. I'm using US 3.75 needles. I'm not sure how many stitches I have on here now. As I'm knitting it, though, it says Multnomah for Mom, but as I'm knitting it, I'm liking it so much, and it's just garter stitch, but I'm envisioning the finished product, And I'm thinking all this time that I'm taking and how much I'm enjoying it, I'm not wanting to give it away. So call me a selfish knitter, but that mom could be me, the mom, or my mom, a mom. I'm going to alternate from the pattern a little bit. I'm going to add more stitches to it, maybe up to 300 stitches before I start the feather and fan. And so I plan to add another color, another yarn to it, because I know I'm not going to have enough. I'm thinking about using this opal, um, opal, and it is, I'm not sure the name of the color, but anyway, I'm thinking about trimming it with the opal at the bottom with the feather and fan. I'll start the feather and the fan and wool mice, and then I'll maybe do a few rows or a repeat in that and do the rest in opal, and then I plan to do the border with the wool mice. So we'll see how that works. I'm excited. I enjoy working on that, and it's a good reprieve when I'm doing the toys and doing that knitting and my hands seem to be hurting from that. Then I enjoy taking a break and knitting on that. I have that in my Knitting's My bag. It says love and grace and faith on there, and I just really like the fabric, and so this is a small Knitting's My bag, and that's holding my shawl. Okay, my next thing on my needles, and I'm very distracted, a little bit distracted, because I see I have 2 messages on Ravelry, and it's so fun to get private messages. So, okay. My next thing is Silas's toy. So Silas is my 8-year-old. He just turned 8, and he picked Hugo the couch potato monster. And maybe I should be showing you what they're supposed to look like. But anyway, he picked Hugo the couch potato monster from Rebecca Danger, and out of her big book of knitted monsters. So this is how far I am on Hugo now. I have his legs, and I'm halfway done with his body. I will knit on him some, and then I'll go to Angus and knit and go back and forth, because I think I started on Hugo and Simi got sad because I was just working on Silas's and not his. So I decided to do, go back and forth and do them both at the same time. I have on my Ravelry project page that I'm knitting this out of Red Heart Super Saver, but I'm thinking that it's not Red Heart. I couldn't find the yarn, but I'm thinking I could find this, and it's Patton's Classic Wool. And so I'm thinking that that's what this is. It's Patton's Classic Wool, and I'm using the US 9 5.5 millimeter, and I'm doing 2 strands of yarn held together because I wanted a big monster. And yeah, so that's where I am with that. I think that's all the information and stats on here. I found it a little fiddly as far as doing one leg and then putting it aside and then doing the other leg and then having the cast on stitches in the middle. I think there was something easier I could have did to get the legs together, and I'll probably think of that next time. But anyway, here he is, and I'm excited about him. So that is what else I'm knitting. I think, let's see if that is all that I am working on. Is that all that's on my needles? Yes, that's all that's on my needles. So our next segment will be off my needles. Off my needles. I don't have anything done, finished. I thought maybe I could bring something old, and maybe I will find blasts from the past at the time. I know some podcasters do that, but I don't really have anything off my needles that I feel like I can show right now, or that I could grab or whatever, because it's been a while. The last knitting things that I have knitted, I've given away as gifts. And so I have knitted a couple pair of socks, one for my husband, one for myself. But other than that, the rest have been gifts. So nothing else off my needles. So off my needles will start from when the podcast starts. So thank you. My heart's desire. My heart's desire means, or segment is what I want to cast on and what I have waiting in the wings. And one of the things that I have waiting in the wings that I want to do is, it's called, I'm sorry, I should hopefully be better organized next time. It is called the Baby Snuggie Cocoon. And I know a young lady that is having a baby. Her baby's not due till December, but anyway, these things are fun to knit. And I am going to be knitting it out of Martha Stewart's extra soft wool blend. I just happened to be walking in Joann's and happened to see this and happened to pet it and thought it was so soft and picked it up, put it in my cart, and didn't realize that it was like $7.49 for not that many yards, because I think I'm going to need, it's a 100-gram ball and it's 164 yards. And I'm going to need, the pattern says I will need, the pattern doesn't say, I think about 250 yards. And I want to make a matching hat too. So I'll probably end up using a coupon and getting a couple more of these. And these are just fun, easy, in the round knits, but I think they're so precious to stuff little newborns in these, and with the matching hat and booties, and I could go on and on and on. So when I feel like I don't have enough mindless knitting to do, I already have this in the bag with the needles, with the pattern, and it's the Baby Snuggly Cocoon, and I already have this all waiting for me to just cast on when I have time. I have this in a bag. My husband had this bag made for me or embroidered for me. It says heart signs on it, and heart signs is the name of my business. I'm a baby sign language instructor, and so Heart Signs Learning Academy is the name of my business. So this is just a plain canvas bag with heart signs on it, and so that's what's holding that. Also, the next thing that I have that I want to start is, and I don't need Ravelry for this, is a pair of stripy socks. I have not done stripy socks, and I want to do stripy socks so bad. So I'm going to use this Knit Picks Felici in the color Capricia or Capricia or Caprica, or however you want to say it. And I'm going to do these socks toe up. I'm not sure if I like toe up or top down better. I keep going back and forth. But I'm going to do the socks toe up, and I'm not sure, I haven't decided yet if I'm going to do the Afterthought heel or if I'm going to stick with my Fleagle heel. I think I'm going to end up sticking with the Fleagle heel because I'm not a big fan of Kitchener. I mean, it's not as scary as everybody says, but it's not something I want to do 4 times in one project, I don't think. So I am waiting to cast those on. I would like to cast them on as soon as possible. It'll just be a stockinette stitch knit, but I think it'll be fun to see the colors change and see the stripes and just working with the small needles. And so maybe when I get done with one of Danielle's socks, since Kimberly said she can wait a little bit since it's getting hot for her wool socks, then I'll probably go back and forth. I have this project in, and my bag is inside out. I didn't realize that. Oh, and I plan on using, doing that one sock on 2 circs, and I'm using my Chalgoo red lace needles. I really like the Chalgoo lace needles, and I think that is size 0 needles. And I have a Lantern Moon bag. It was a birthday gift to myself last August, and so it's a Lantern Moon sock bag. So that's what I am wanting, my heart's desire, what I would like to cast on next. I have lots of other things in my queue. I think after I do the toys, I will probably cast on a couple of more things. I would like to do some toys for me, but we'll get more into that when we get into my product review. Thank you. Okay, stash enhancement. Stash enhancement is really short and pretty puny this week. All I have is, like I had mentioned in the previous segment, this Martha Stewart Crafts Extra Soft Wool Blend. It's 65% acrylic and 35% wool. And now that I'm looking at it, I hope it's machine washable wool. Because if it's not, I can't give it to the baby. I can't tell. I'll have to check that out. But anyway, that's the only stash I have. Let's see. When did I pick this up? Within the last week is when I picked this up. And so I'm not really on a yarn diet or anything. I just have not bought any new yarn lately. I haven't been able to really do that. And plus I have a okay stash. I mean, I have a pretty nice sock yarn stash, and my taste has changed in my yarn over the years, and so I need to build up my stash. But I don't really have a lot of yarn that I would like yet, but I kind of would like to buy according to my project. So anyway, this is all I have for stash enhancement. It's a very pretty color. It's called green eucalyptus. And after I turn off the camera, I'm going to check and see if this is machine washable. But that's all we have for stash enhancement. Podcast review. Today I'm going to talk about a new to me podcast, and I just found it recently, and it's called Joni Knits. And Joni is lots of yarn on Ravelry, and she only has about 8 episodes, and it's a very basic podcast. When I say basic, it doesn't have a lot of bells and whistles and things like that, but it's one of our knitting friends talking about knitting, and she's a very prolific knitter. She's amazing. She just learned to crochet a few weeks ago, I think, and she's already crocheting up a storm. She knits lots of toys. That's mostly what she knits. And by watching her, I can't remember how I found her, but by watching her, she is the one that got me started on wanting to make toys. So now, I feel like I've been stalking her a little bit. I've been watching all of her podcasts back to back while I cast on for the toys, and I've been through her projects, and I think she is just a real sweet lady. So she has a very on topic podcast where she tells a little bit of week in review, where she talks about her life and her adorable little children. I understand what it means to be a busy mom. She has 3 children under the ages of 4. I'm not sure if I've ever been that busy, but her knitting and her crocheting are worth watching, and she just seems like a very sweet lady, and I have fun watching her. And so that is my podcast review. Joni Knits, you can check her out. I believe she is Joni Knits on Blip, and she is Joni Knits on iTunes, and I cannot find her blog name, but I'm sure it's Joni Knits Podcast. So yeah, that's what I enjoy, what I've been enjoying this week, and so that's my podcast review. My product review this week is going to be the Rebecca Danger book, the Big Book of Knitted Monsters, Mischievous Lovable Toys by Rebecca Danger. It retails for $18.99 US and $24.99 in Canada. It is a soft cover book. It lays pretty flat, I would say. I got my copy from the library. I usually get my copies of books from the library to see if I like them first before I purchase them. And I do like it very much, so I would like to purchase my own very soon. She has fantastic pictures in here. lots of color. At the very beginning, she gives you general monster knitting guidelines. And for somebody like me who has never knit toys, I really like reading through this. And so she gives you good tips about magic loop and how to do the body and stuffing and buttons and things like that. There were a couple things that were missing. I don't really know how to attach limbs, how to sew on the limbs. That may sound simple, but I really don't know how to do that. So that wasn't in here, but I was able to go to the Danger Crafts Ravelry group and ask questions there and find that out. So we'll see how that goes. The eyes too, there's not a whole lot about how to put the eyes in. And again, you may think that that's normal, but for somebody who has never done toys, I had no idea. It took me a long time just walking around trying to find the eyes, and then I didn't know if I had the right ones, but she gives you a standard weight yarn system of the different weights of yarn and the recommended needle size, and then I believe, I'm not sure why she does that, but she does tell you to knit the toys in at least 2 needle sizes below what is recommended so you can get a good firm knit and your stuffing won't be popping out. So that's probably why she has that. I'll talk a little bit about some of my favorite patterns in here. And again, I'm not even a sci-fi person or even a monster type of person. I used to watch a lot of horror movies when I was younger, but I don't do that anymore. I really don't watch horror movies. But these are very friendly and very cute monsters. So we'll start with Angus since he's at the beginning. And Angus is the attic monster, and he is my 5-year-old's favorite. So I like him. I like how she kind of gives you step by step what to knit first, then when to stuff it, then what to do next. And she has good pictures in here on different techniques, how to pick up stitches, and I just really, really, really like the photography in here. Another favorite of mine, of ours, of course, is Hugo, and that's the one that I'm doing now for Silas, who is 8. Another favorite is Tony, the toy box monster. He looks very simple. I like him. I saw Karen from Round the Twist had did him, and I loved seeing him come together when she was making him. And I think he is just cute. So that's one of my favorites. I also like Cat. I think that's just a cute looking monster. I hope I'm not infringing on anybody's copyright by showing. I'm trying not to show the pattern. So I hope that I didn't do anything wrong there. There was one in here. Oh, Claude. That's the one that I want to knit for myself. I don't know. He's just a cute little monster, and I'm looking forward to knitting him. So I want to cast him on again very soon. There was a computer monster in here that my mom looked through here, and she asked me to knit for her. And I like him. Cecil, the computer monster. I like his little round ears. So he'll be one that I will be knitting very soon. But I think that she has beautiful pictures in here, pretty detailed instructions, and this is a win-win situation if you want to knit toys. I think it's just a fantastic book. I had heard lots of people, blogs, podcasters talking about it, and just since toys wasn't my thing, I wasn't really interested. So this might be old to you all, but to me, it is new. I just got the book last week, and I really, really, really like it. So I see it's copywritten for 2011, but thank you, Rebecca Danger. So that's my book review.
Hi everyone. I would like to start out with sharing what is on the needles. I am working on a shawl. It's a easy peasy shawl on Ravelry. It's a free pattern, and I'm working on it, and I'm going to enter into a competition that we have at our school. And I started this a few weeks ago, and it's not as big as I would like it to be, but I've learned a lot since I started on this shawl, and what I've learned is that you have to be very patient with it because it's not as big as I was hoping it'd be by this time. But I was kind of disappointed when I counted out my stitches and found out I only had 87, and my mother told me that I had to have at least 200 stitches. So it's coming along slowly, but I'm enjoying working on it. And
What kind of yarn are you using? Okay.
And a friend bought this yarn for me from the store. It's one of the 1 pound balls.
Joanne Sensations.
Joanne Sensations. And I only have about this much left. And what
size needles?
I am using size 10 needles of the Denise needle, size 10s. I messed up at the beginning because I started off with 110 and 110 and a half. And then I switched it to 10. So I hope it doesn't show too much. So I switched needles in the middle of my project. And this is some stuff I like to start. It is called, it's the Sophie Bag by Julie Anderson from Black Sheep. See, that's the Sophie bag. I like to start as soon as I can, and I would also like to start working on By the Beach socks. And this pattern is by Granny and me, Reed E. Wells. So this is the sock. Trying not to show the pattern too much. Yep, so that's why I would like to be on my needles. But it probably won't be started by the next podcast we do. But by podcast 3, it should be on. So thank you for watching.
Hi, I'm Jenny, and I'm going to talk about what I'm working on. Right now, I'm working on this bag. It's called the Boga bag. Booga bag. I forget who it's from. But I'm using Lamb's Pride Bulky yarn. Purple. And I like it. It's an easy bag, easy to knit, and it's only 8.5 inches, and I have to make it up to 17 inches because I'm going to felt it after I'm done. But that's what I'm working on, and I'm using size 11 needles, and I like this. I did the bottom in a light color, and then the sides in a darker, and then I did a strip of the light right there, and because I thought I had more than I had, but I had less than I wanted to have. So I am still thinking if I'm going to take that out and wait to put it on at the top of it, that strip of light purple right there. So, and I'm almost done with my back, and I can't wait to get it done. And so the next thing I'm working on is, well, Actually, I have it in this bag. It's a bag from Knitting is My Bag from Lois. It's really my mom's bag, and she had skepticisms about me using it. She didn't think I take care of it, but I take care of it. And I have another project, and this is the Cable of Goodness Toe Up Top Down Socks by Erin Case. And I've only got a little bit done, and I'm doing them toe up, and I'm using the bamboo and ewe yarn. It's cut kind of purple yarn. It's very pretty, and it's super fine wool bamboo blend yarn, and it has 262 yards and 240 meters. And I like this yarn, and it's 55% wool and 30% nylon. And this is my first pair of real socks. I did a pair of socks before, but I kind of made up the pattern. Me and my sister did. So this is my first pair of real socks, and I'm going to be using it for a competition at school in April or May. So I am a process knitter, and so I can't wait to get this done. And that's all. Oh, things I want to start working on. In my queue, I have on Ravelry, I have a doll skirt that I want to start working on, and I want to make for this bag, this boga bag. I want to make a flower, so I'm gonna find a flower on Ravelry to make one for the boga bag. So that's all that I'm working on, and that's all that I have in my queue. And so I will see you all next week. Bye bye.
Well, we're winding down. This is taking a lot longer than I thought. It should not take this long every week. But the introduction took a little longer. So we're on our favorite things segment. And this week, my favorite thing is the York Peppermint Patty Coffee Creamer. I love coffee. I drink about 19-ounce mug. This is the coffee mug I use, and it's 19 ounces, which is a little over 2 cups. And I fill this up every morning with coffee, and that's how I start my morning. That's mostly all the coffee I drink. I like to have my a little caffeine in the afternoon, but I love coffee and creamer and flavored creamers. And this one my husband brought home the other day for me. I hadn't seen it before. It is so yummy, yummy, yummy. I love mint chocolate anyway. And so this is my favorite thing for this week. Okay, miscellaneous and off topic. We are getting to the end of this podcast, so I don't want to bog you down with more chit chat. Please leave me a comment on the blog, or you can private message me on Ravelry and let me know what you think, whether I should or shouldn't continue, what you think about having the girls in the segments, and different things like that. There are so many things. I feel like there are so many things I can talk about, but what's worth talking about and what should I really be talking about? I am on a weight loss journey, and so I'm kind of up and down on that weight loss journey. So I may talk about some healthy eating tips or some exercise tips. That's something I can talk about. I am very passionate about teaching American Sign Language to hearing babies and children. So I am in the process of taking American Sign Language classes. I've been taking them for about 6 or 7 months now, and I take them once or twice a week. And I am a certified baby signing time instructor. So I'm certified to teach children ages 0 to 3 years old American Sign Language and their parents. And I want to continue on that. I need to go ahead and advance my certification so that I can teach children of all levels. But I'm just teaching sign language vocabulary, and I'm passionate about how sign language can open up the lines of communication between pre-verbal or non-verbal children and their families. So, you know, that's something I can talk about. I thought about maybe sharing some signs on here that maybe if you meet a deaf person and you want to greet them, maybe some things that you can greet them with, or if some moms would like to see. And the phone rang. So what do you do about that? But, and maybe some moms who are watching would just like to see some basic signs that they can use with their babies and toddlers to open up the lines of communication. And I can share some basic signs with you just for that. So, you know, there's a lot that I guess I can talk about. If you have any questions about me or our family or anything else, then just let me know. This is not my podcast. This is our podcast. I'm not trying to showcase myself or show off myself, but I would like this to be like sitting down and knitting with friends. And so when you watch this, I want you to feel like you're sitting down and knitting with a friend, and any feedback that we go back and forth with, it can just be sitting and knitting. So if there's something that you want me to share with you that I can't share through email, or just that you want me to address here, just go ahead and ask me, and we can make this podcast ours. I'm not sure if I'm going to have a Ravelry group, because I'm not sure if many people are going to watch this, and many people are going to want to continue to watch it. You know, prizes and knit-alongs and all that is real fun. I'm not sure if I'm prepared to do all that yet, but just I wanted to kind of introduce myself in person as much as I can to my Ravelry and Plurk friends, and just say hi. I really appreciate you all, and that's where I am. So hopefully I'll get music soon. And we can add that in too. I am, again, His Handmade, HISHANDMAID, on Ravelry and on Plurk. Go ahead and friend me. That would be fine. Introduce yourself. I am His Handmade 1 on Twitter. Sorry, I'm turning my little stitch, my row gauge thing. So I'm going to be sitting and knitting a lot while I'm talking. So I may be looking down and things like that. His Handmade on Ravelry and Plurk, and His Handmade 1 on Twitter. You can contact me through that way, or you can contact me by leaving a comment on the blog. This is going to be posted on the blog right now. Again, if I get more viewers, or if you all want to move our podcast to iTunes, then I'll try to see how I can do that. You can email me at knittingmother@gmail.com. I don't have a classy goodbye line yet either, or a hello line, but I want to say thank you very, very much for stepping into my home and knitting with me. Take care.